5,000 years. That's how long Chinese civilization has endured. Unbroken, continuous, empires have risen and fallen. Languages have been born and died. Entire civilizations have vanished into dust. But China has never stopped telling its story. It's the oldest living culture on Earth. But every story, no matter how long, has to start somewhere. So where did it all begin? Here's the thing. Every civilization that ever existed asked the same fundamental question. Where did the sky come from? The earth? The sun? Us? And every culture, from the Nile to the Mediterranean, from Mesopotamia to the Ganges, had an answer. Let me show you what I mean. In ancient Egypt, before anything existed, there was none. An infinite ocean of darkness. From these waters, the god Atum emerged. He created himself from nothing. Then, standing alone on a hill, he spoke, and the other gods came into being. In Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, creation was violent. The god Marduk battled Tiamat, the dragon of chaos. He killed her, split her corpse in two, and used the halves to make the sky and the earth. The ancient Greeks said that first came chaos, not disorder, but a yawning void, pure emptiness. From this void emerged Gaia, the earth. Then came the sky, the sea, the mountains. The gods were born from these primordial forces, constantly fighting for power. In Hindu tradition, the universe doesn't have a single beginning. It cycles eternally through creation and destruction. Brahma, the creator, emerges from a golden lotus, and the world unfolds from his meditation, like a dream taking form. In the Bible, God simply spoke, "Let there be light." And there was light. 6 days of divine commands. The word became reality. No struggle, no birth, just pure, absolute authority. So, what about China? How did the ancient Chinese, this civilization that would last 5,000 years, how did they explain the beginning of everything? Their answer is different. There's no God speaking commands from a throne. No cosmic battle, no waters, no void, no lotus. Instead, there's chaos. So what exactly was this chaos? The ancient Chinese called it Hundun. And it's hard to describe because it wasn't anything. It wasn't darkness, because darkness needs light to exist. It wasn't emptiness, because emptiness needs space. It wasn't silence, because silence needs sound. Imagine everything that exists, matter, energy, time, space, all compressed into a single point. No separation, no form, no direction. The myths describe it like a cosmic egg. Everything was inside, but nothing had shape yet. Nothing had begun. Hot and cold mixed together, light and dark, indistinguishable, up and down, meaningless. This wasn't a place you could visit. It wasn't a time you could point to. It was the before existed. But here's the thing. Inside this chaos, inside this cosmic egg where nothing had form, something was alive. Not a god watching from outside. Not a force, a being. His name was Pangu. The myths don't say where he came from. He wasn't born. He wasn't created. He simply was. The first thing. The only thing. And he had been sleeping in that suffocating darkness for 18,000 years. 18,000 years. No dreams, no movement. Just existence, suspended in the void. But nothing sleeps forever, and when Pangu woke up, everything changed. He tried to move, but there was nowhere to move to. He tried to breathe, but there was no air, just dense, choking nothingness. He tried to stand, but there was no up, no down. This universe was a prison, and Pangu realized something. If the world wouldn't give him space, he would make it. Pangu raised the axe. He took a breath, the first breath anyone had ever taken, and then he swung. Crack. For the first time in eternity, things became different. The light parts of chaos started to float up. Weightless, luminous, pure. They became the sky. The heavy parts started to sink down, solid, stable, grounded. They became the earth. Light and darkness separated. Hot and cold divided. Form and formlessness finally distinct. For the first time since anything existed, there was space. Pangu had done it. He had created the world. But there was a problem. Heaven and earth. They wanted to close. Like magnets of opposite poles, they were drawn to each other. The universe wanted to collapse back into that cosmic egg, back into chaos. And Pangu understood. If he walked away, if he let go, everything he had just created would be destroyed. In seconds. So he made a choice. If the world needed something to hold it apart, then he would be that something. And so Pangu stood, not for an hour, not for a day. He stood for 18,000 years, the same amount of time he had slept. Every single day, the sky rose 1 meter higher, the earth grew 1 meter thicker, and Pangu grew 1 meter taller. His spine compressed under the weight of the sky. His legs ached from the pressure of the earth. His arms burned from holding up infinity. But he didn't fall. He couldn't fall. Year after year, century after century, millennium after millennium, until finally, the distance was enough. Heaven and earth would never collapse again. The world was safe. And Pangu fell. For a moment, the world was completely still, the sky empty, the earth silent, and Pangu dead. But then, something started to happen. Something the myths say was the real creation, because Pangu didn't just die. He transformed, and what he became was everything. In most creation myths, this is where the story would end. The god builds the world and then rules over it. But Chinese mythology is different. Because Pangu didn't build the world and walk away. He didn't create it and then stand above it. He became it. What happened next was the real creation. His final breath became the wind and the clouds. His voice, the last echo in his throat, became thunder. His left eye rose into the sky and became the sun. His right eye followed and became the moon. His 4 limbs extended outward and became the 4 corners of the earth. His torso, which had held up the sky for 18,000 years, became the 5 sacred mountains, the peaks that would become holy sites for thousands of years. His blood flowed outward and became the rivers that would nourish civilizations. His sweat, from those 18,000 years of strain, became the rain and the morning dew. His hair scattered across the darkness and became the stars. Billions of them, each one a part of him. His skin and the hair on his body became every plant, every tree, every blade of grass. The forests that would shelter life, his teeth and bones, harder than anything, became metals and precious stones. Gold, silver, jade, the treasures humans would seek for millennia. And even the smallest things, the parasites that lived on his body, became the animals. Every living thing. Think about what this means. The ground you're standing on right now, the air you're breathing, the water you drink, the mountains you climb, the stars you wish upon. In Chinese mythology, all of it was once alive. All of it was once Pangu. Humans aren't separate from nature. We're not above it. We're not outside it. We're literally made from the same body, the same sacrifice, the same being. The world was complete now. Everything was in its place. Sky above, earth below, sun, moon, stars, rivers, mountains, forests. Perfect. But it was silent. The rivers flowed, but no one drank from them. The mountains stood tall, but no one climbed them. The stars shone, but no one looked up at them. There was no one to witness the beauty, no one to feel the wind, no one to tell stories about what all of this meant. The world was alive, but it was alone, and that's when she appeared. Her name was Nüwa. The myths disagree about what she looked like. Some say she had the head of a human and the body of a serpent. Others say she was simply beautiful beyond description. But honestly, her appearance doesn't matter. What matters is what she felt. Nüwa wandered through the world Pangu had become. She climbed to the highest mountains and saw nothing but more mountains. She walked through ancient forests and heard nothing but wind in the leaves. She stood beside waterfalls and felt the spray on her face. But there was no one to share the moment with. She would see her face in the water, and it was always alone. No voice calling back to her, no eyes meeting hers, no laughter, no questions, no stories, just silence. The world was perfect. Every mountain perfectly formed, every river flowing exactly as it should, every sunrise more beautiful than the last. But what's the point of beauty if there's no one to share it with? What's the point of a world that can't feel back? And that's when she had an idea. She picked up a handful of clay, yellow earth, river water, the same materials Pangu had become, and slowly, she began to shape it. She gave it 2 arms, so it could reach out. She gave it 2 legs, so it could walk beside her. She gave it a head with eyes, so it could see the world, and a mouth, so it could speak. It looked a little like her. And then she breathed into it, and then it moved. Its eyes, no longer lifeless, opened. It turned its head, and then it smiled. For the first time since the world began, someone was looking back. She called this new creation Ren, human, and she realized she could make more. She worked through the day and into the night, each one carefully crafted, each one unique, and as each one came to life, the world changed. Suddenly, the world had sound, laughter echoing through the valleys, children playing in the rivers Pangu's blood had made, songs drifting up to the stars that were once Pangu's hair, voices saying, "I see you, I'm here, you're not alone." For the first time, the world was alive, not just in the way mountains are alive or rivers, but alive in the way that only beings who can feel and choose and love can be alive. But then Nüwa noticed something. The earth was vast, and creating humans one by one, this was going to take forever. And then she had another idea. If she couldn't mold them all by hand, she'd just have to get creative. She swung the vine across mountains, across valleys, across plains and coastlines. Thousands upon thousands of humans, born in moments. Now, there's a legend within this legend. Some say that the humans Nüwa carefully crafted by hand, those became the nobles, the rulers, the elite, and the ones made from the splattered mud, those became the common people. That's a story people made up later, probably by aristocrats who wanted to justify why they got to be in charge. Classic. The truth? She loved them all the same, and so humanity spread across the world. They learned to make tools, they learned to make fire. They built homes, they raised families, they told stories. The silence that had haunted Nüwa was gone. For a while, everything was perfect. But in Chinese mythology, perfection never lasts long. Humanity thrived. They built villages along the rivers Pangu's blood had made. They climbed the mountains that were once his bones. They told stories under the stars that were once his hair. They created culture, and Nüwa watched over them like a mother watching her children sleep. For the first time since she'd walked this world, she was content. And then, the sky broke. The myths don't agree on why it happened. They crashed into Buzhou Mountain, one of the pillars holding up the sky. The pillar shattered. Others say it was simply nature, a catastrophic event, an earthquake that reached the heavens. But the why didn't matter. What mattered was the result. Fire poured from the hole in the sky, not normal fire, but sky fire, unquenchable. The earth split. Floods burst from below as if the earth itself was bleeding. Water and fire, elements that should never meet, collided. And from the mountains, the beasts came. Wild animals, driven mad by the catastrophe, attacked the villages. Everything humanity had built, destroyed in hours. The world that Pangu had sacrificed himself to create, the humans that Nüwa had lovingly shaped with her own hands, were dying. Nüwa heard them. Every scream, every cry for help, every child calling for a parent who would never come. These weren't just creations anymore. They were hers, and she refused to let them die. If the sky wouldn't hold, she would fix it. If the world wouldn't protect them, she would become their protector. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, she knew what she had to do. First, she needed stones. Not just any stones, 5 colored stones. Stones that held the essence of the 5 elements: fire, water, wood, metal, earth. And then, she was going to mend the heavens. Nüwa began to work. She melted the 5 colored stones and lifted them toward the torn sky. Crack by crack, the sky began to heal. Where the red flowed, fire withdrew. Where the blue spread, water calmed. But the work consumed her strength. The heavens steadied, yet still leaned, heavy and unbalanced, threatening to fall again. So Nüwa cut the legs from a great turtle, 4 colossal pillars of living stone, and set them beneath the sky's corners. The heavens rose, level once more. Then she turned to the floods. A black dragon writhed across the valleys, spreading chaos through the waters. She struck it down and filled the gap it had torn in the earth with ashes and stone. The fire cooled. The waters returned to their course. The sky stood firm. The world, though scarred, endured. Nüwa looked upon what remained. The colors of creation had dimmed, but life still moved beneath them. And for the first time since Pangu's death, the world was whole again. When the sky was mended and the floods withdrew, the age of gods drew to a close. Pangu's body had become the world. Nüwa's hands had made humanity. Heaven and earth were whole again. The great work was complete. But creation never truly ends. When the voices of gods faded, new voices began to rise. Human voices. They learned to build, to plant, to speak. They tamed fire, shaped tools, and carved their stories into earth and bone. The powers that once belonged to gods now lived within them, not as miracles, but as memory. Myth became heritage. Heritage became order. And from that order, history began. In the ages that followed, new names would appear. Fuxi, Shening, the Yellow Emperor. Rulers, sages, and inventors who turned the raw world of myth into the first civilization. The heavens stood firm, the rivers found their course, and humanity, born of clay and chaos, took its first step into time. From chaos came creation, from gods came humanity, and from their memory, history began. But this is only the beginning. Next time, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors will rise, and the age of myth will become the age of men. If their world moved, you share the story, subscribe, and keep the memory alive.